Good afternoon, everybody. We are going to wait just a few moments because I think that some people is still coming. So in a few minutes, we can start. So I think we can start. So good morning, good afternoon, sorry, everybody. My name is Laura. I'm a drug safety manager in the Department of Pharmacovigilance in Asphalion. As you know, Asphalion is a regulatory affairs consultancy with a huge experience in regulatory affairs and pharmacovigilance. Now, this is a webinar which is focused on the main updates regarding the new regulation related to the veterinary pharmacovigilance. So, what we are going to talk about in this webinar? Well, first of all, I want to show you the main updates of this new EU regulation. And also, I want to show you the PV responsibilities of the marketing authorization holders. Then we will move to the collection, recording, and reporting of suspected adverse events for veterinary medicinal products. And I will explain you new concepts, which are the Union Product Database and the Enhanced EVVet. Then I also want to explain you the new approach related to the signal management process. We will talk also about the PSMF, and then we will move to the collection of sales and use data, which is also a very important update regarding the new legislation. So we start with the definition and legal basis of veterinary pharmacovigilance. What is veterinary pharmacovigilance? Well, veterinary pharmacovigilance concerns monitoring, evaluating, and improving the safety of veterinary medicines, with particular reference to adverse events in animals and human beings related to the use of these medicines. Veterinary pharmacovigilance also includes the collection of information on adverse events due to off-label uses and potential environmental problems. So, these activities, the activities that veterinary pharmacovigilance concerns are related to public health, animal health, and environmental protection. It's very important you to know that there is a collaboration between the European Commission and the European Medicine Agency, the EMA, and marketing authorization holders in order to ensure the safe and effective use of veterinary medicinal products. What is new? Just a break. I'm going to explain you the main updates of this regulation, the regulation that I am showing you in this slide. At the end of this webinar, we will have enough time for questions. But if you have any questions or any that arise during this presentation, you can write the question in the chat. So at the end of the presentation, we will be able to discuss any topic, okay? So what is the new regulation? Well, we have the new Veterinary Medicinal Product Regulation from 2019 and the Commission Implementary Regulation from 2021, which contains new legal provisions on veterinary pharmacovigilance. In addition, the basis of the new EVV system, that we are going to talk about this later on, are explained in the updated BITS guidelines. Also, besides, guidelines on veterinary good pharmacovigilance practices will supersede current guidelines on veterinary pharmacovigilance from 28th January 2022. So Which is the aim of the new regulation? Well, the aim of the new regulation is to reduce administrative burden on industry and regulator, while reinforcing the scientific focus on safety monitoring activities. So, the new changes are focused on signal management, maintenance of pharmacovigilance master file, and also are focused on pharmacovigilance inspections. Which are the key benefits of this new regulation? Well, it increases availability and access to safe and high quality medicines for veterinarians, farmers, or pet owners to treat and prevent animal diseases. It reduces administrative burden, and also it enhances rules to keep antimicrobials effective based on a One Health approach for the benefits of animal and public health. In addition, it's very important you to know that the agency publishes annual public bulletins to inform veterinarian and the public of the main outcomes of post-marketing surveillance activities, summarize recommendations related to safety, and also highlights ongoing monitoring activities for centralized authorized products. Also, we have the EMA newsletter, which provides updates on progress toward the implementation of this new regulation. To support marketing authorization holders in complying with their pharmacovigilance obligation, the EMA will provide a guideline on veterinary good pharmacovigilance practice, which will replace the current guidelines on veterinary pharmacovigilance from 28 January 2022. These guidelines correspond to 6 different modules covering the following topics. We have one module for the collection and recording of suspect adverse events. We have other module for signal management, other for pharmacovigilance communication, other for the PSMF, other for inspection, and at the end, we have another module, which is the glossary. Which are the PV responsibilities of the marketing authorization holders regarding this new regulation? First of all, the marketing authorization holders should have in place a PSMF describing in detail the pharmacovigilance systems with respect to its authorized veterinary medicinal products. Also, it's very important you do know that if you have different PV tasks outsourced to a third party, the agreement, the arrangements with this third party should be set out in detail in the PSMF. Also, the MAP, the marketing authorization holders, should establish and maintain a system for collect and evaluate the information on the suspect adverse reactions which are related to the product, and should continuously evaluate the benefit-risk balance of the product. One important update regarding this new regulation is that the PCUs will no longer be required, and we change for a continuous signal management process. We will talk about this later on, but just you to know that this activity has to be performed at least once a year. Also, the marketing authorization holders should designate a local representative with the purpose of receiving the suspect adverse events in the specific member state, and also to be able to communicate with the national competent authority in the appropriate language. Finally, we have the QPPV. The MAP should designate one QPPV responsible for carrying out the PV task. Which are these PV tasks? These activities include, among others, the elaboration and maintenance of the PSMF. The QPPV has also to establish and maintain a system to ensure that all adverse events are recorded. Also, the QPPV has to ensure that any requests from competent authorities or from the agency are properly and fully answered. Also, the QPPV has to apply the signal management process and has to ensure that all the pharmacovigilance personnel is continuous training. Other two important things related to the QPPV. The QPPV should reside and operate in the European Union and should be appropriately qualified and be permanently at disposal of the MAP. We have one QPPV for one PSMF, and also this person is the contact point regarding any pharmacovigilance inspection. Okay, now we move to the reporting of suspect adverse event. Well, pharmacovigilance rules are necessary for the protection of the public and animal health and of the environment. So the collection of the suspect adverse event should contribute to the good usage of the veterinary medicinal products. So first of all, who can be affected by veterinary medicinal products? First, we have the companion animals and the food production animals. Here, it's important you to know that one report can contain more than one animal affected. But an adverse event in animal involve more than one species or involve one human and an animal, we have to create separate reports, but they have to be linked. According to the new regulation, what is new? First, information about any suspected adverse event in humans with veterinary products, whether occurring in conjunction with the treatment of animals, the handling of the veterinary product, or following exposure through the environment, should be collected. In addition, according to the new regulation, we have a new definition regarding the environmental incidents. Environmental incident has to be recorded as suspect adverse event. Examples. For example, an environmental incident is when we have high concentration of veterinary medicinal product in drinking water. So in these cases, also it's important you to know that if an adverse event involves more than one human or involves a human and an animal, again, we have to create separate reports, but again, also they have to be linked. Which are the source of I continue, sorry. Therefore, what do we have to collect? Well, it's very important that to have procedures in place to ensure that the collection of this suspect adverse event, and also it's very important to have procedures in place to record all these adverse events in the Union Pharmacovigilance database. We will talk also about this database later on. So, according with the new regulation, which are the adverse events that we have to collect? Well, we have to collect any suspected adverse reaction in an animal following the exposure to the veterinary medicinal product, any lack of efficacy of a veterinary medicinal product following its administration, any environmental incidents, as I already said, any noxious reaction in humans, any pharmacological finding of excessive level of residues, any transmission of an infection agents, and also reactions in an animal to a medicinal product for human use. Which are the source of information? The source of information can be, first, a spontaneous report, which are unsolicited communications done by a veterinarian or another healthcare professional or a member of a generic public, etc. Also, we can collect adverse events from scientific literature. So it's very important to monitor at least annually the scientific literature. Also, we have to monitor internet or digital media because it's another source of information. And finally, other source of information is clinical studies and post-marketing surveillance studies. Now, I want to focus on important topics to highlight due to the new regulation. First of all, the definition of seriousness. There is an absence of definition in the new EU regulation. However, this is a field that should be provided for compliance with PEACH. So for this reason, the EMA recommends to use the PEACH definition. And according to PEACH, what is a serious adverse event? Well, a serious adverse event is any adverse events which result in death, is life-threatening, results in a persistent or significant disability, or a congenital anomaly or birth defect. And also, please notice that animals treated as a group, in this kind of group, a serious adverse event is considered when there is an increase in incidence. Other topic is the collection and notification of cases of adverse reaction in humans exposed to veterinary pharmacovigilance products. It's important you to know that in which there is no separate forms to record adverse events report in humans. So for this reason, humans has to be selected as species. And we have to report only one human affected per report. Any observation or lack of efficacy of a veterinary product following its administration has to be recorded. In the new EBIC web for veterinary, we can record information for both cases for safety and lack of efficacy, and both has to be coded following the VEDRA terminology. Again, we will talk about VEDRA later on. Finally, according to the environmental incident, it's important you to know that the number of affected animals is a mandatory field, while the number of treated animals is not. Now, I want you to remember this number, 30 days. What is this? Is that reporting timelines, the new reporting timelines that we have according to the new regulation. So, all new suspect adverse events, non-serious and serious, has to be recorded in the Union Pharmacovigilance database without delay and no later than within 30 days from the date of receipt. Also, all the adverse events which are originated from clinical studies and post-marketing surveillance studies has to be also recorded within 30 days from the date of the closure of the final study record. So now, I've already mentioned the Union Pharmacovigilance database, but what is this Union product database? Well, as we are talking, information on veterinary products is essential to enable health professionals, authorities, and companies make informed decisions. So, related to this, a key aspect of the new regulation is the creation of the Union database. So, the Union Product Database, UPD, will serve as a single source of information for all authorized veterinary medicines in the European Union. So, which are the benefits of this new database? Well, the UPD improves transparency on veterinary medicinal products. It supports the activities around the harmonization of product information. Also, it implements a reliable tool for veterinarian practitioners that can use to elaborate different treatment options. In addition, it offers a self-service access for marketing authorization holders for certain regulatory activities and enable the management of variation that do not require assessment. And finally, it provides functionality to perform data analysis. Therefore, the UPD will enable anyone with an interest in veterinarian medicines to search and view information on all authorized veterinary medicines in the European Union, irrespective of the authorized route. Also, it allows to find out in which member states a specific veterinary medicine is available, and also to consider potential treatment options. So, who will have access to this database? First of all, the competent authorities, the agency and the commission will have full access to the information in the product database. So they will be able to create products, adapt products, and approve and reject variation not requiring assessment, and also sort, view, and notify products. Then the marketing authorization holders shall have full access to the information in the product database as regard the marketing authorizations. So, as I already said, it will provide self-service access to specific regulatory activities, such as submit other post-authorization data, like marketing authorization status or volume of sales, also submit a variation or requirement assessment, and again, search, view, and notify products. Also, it's important you to know that the general public should also have access to the information in the UPD, but without the possibility to change the information therein. It's very important to take into account that to use the UPD restricted areas, you will need to complete a few registration steps to ensure that you have an IMA account, the organization you represent is registered in the IMA's organization management system, and also it's important to submit a request for a specific asset access role through the IMA account management. So we have talked about the UPD, but which is the relation between the UPD and ultravigilance veterinary, EVVET? Well, as you already know, ultravigilance veterinary is the European Union data processing network and data management system for the exchange, processing, and evaluation of adverse events related to veterinary products in the EEA. Thus, it is a fundamental component of the Union Pharmacovigilance database. What is important? Well, EMA will launch an enhanced EVVET system on 28 January 2022 to adapt to the new regulation. And this system will use the pharmacovigilance reporting standards developed by PITCH, the Veterinary International Conference on Harmonization. So the data format will be changed. Also, it's important you to know that all the suspect reactions that are notified through ultravigilance should be linked with the products and active substance that contains or that are present in the UPD. Now we focus on electronic reporting of adverse events, and I want to start reviewing how the reports are being collected at the moment. For adverse events that occur in the EEA, there are two options. First, the veterinarian or animal owner can report to the MAD the adverse event, and the MAD send the report to the National Competent Authority. Then it's the National Competent Authority who sends the report to the ultravigilance database. Second options, there is another option in which the veterinarian or the animal owner can send the report directly to the National Competent Authority. Then it's the National Competent Authority who sends the information to the central database. And also, the National Competent Authority informs the MAD. In case of non-EEA reports, in this case, the veterinarian reports directly to the MAD, and it's the MAD who sends information to the central database. So at this moment, this is the current system. But regarding the new legislation, now veterinarians and animal owners can report the adverse events to the national competent authorities or to the MAD. And all the reports are going to be recorded in the central database. So now, for all EEAs and non-EEAs reports, all of them will be available in the central database. In addition, it's important you to know that there is a notification form, a new notification form in the AM's website. Well, I've already said that the data format is going to change. So from now, MATs and national competent authorities need to be able to read messages in bits format. This is the new system. This message format is an XML, and the message structure is in line with the international standard ISO 27953-1. So please notice that all MATs and national competent authorities has to build and use a suitable conversion tool to notify the adverse event in this new format. But don't worry, because using the correct data format, it's possible to submit report at least 6 months after go live. Here, you can see some documents and guidelines for marketing authorization holders and national competent authorities related to the implementation of this new format. The BITS has generated a number of documents to assist stakeholders in preparing, formatting, and transmitting electronic submission of adverse event reports. In line with this, adverse events report must contain a standard vocabulary to allow systematic coding and analysis of the adverse events. EBVET use bedrock terminology for the reporting of the suspected adverse reaction in animals and humans. So, EMA published the list of the clinical terms, including the current and the obsolete ones. And then the Committee of Medicinal Products for Veterinary Use, the CVMP, usually review this list in its annual meetings. So what is new? Well, the CVMP has adopted a new combined bedrock list of clinical terms for reporting suspect adverse reactions in animals and humans to the medicinal products. Also, the committee has adopted a new guideline note on the use of bedrock terminology for reporting adverse reaction, which is the purpose of this guideline. The purpose is to explain the principles of bedrock terminology and also to provide advice about its use. So now we have an overview about how about what we have to collect and how we have to notify and where. So now I want to move to another very, very important update in the new regulation, which is the signal management process. So what is the signal management process? The signal management process means a process for performing active surveillance of pharmacovigilance data for the veterinary products in order to assess the pharmacovigilance data and determine if there is any change in the benefits-risk balance of the products. So, according to the new regulation, marketing authorization holders should continuously monitor the safety of their veterinary products in order to detect any safety issue that may impact the benefit-risk balance. In the EMA website, you can find the Signal Management Guideline, which came into effect on 28th of January 2022. And the objective of this module is to provide a general guideline on scientific and quality aspect of signal management process. Also, in it, it is described the role, responsibilities, and procedural aspect of this process. So also, according to the new Commission implementation regulation, we have a new definition. Well, it's not a new, but it's a clear definition of a signal. A signal is defined as information that arrives for one or multiple sources, which suggests a potentially new causal association between an adverse event and a veterinary product. The signal management process should consist of different steps, which are signal detection, signal priorization, signal validation, assessment, and recommendation for actions. So, what happens in case of an impact on the benefit-risk balance of the veterinary medicinal product? Well, in this situation, what we have is an emergency safety issue. And if we have this issue, we have to notify to the relevant competent authority without delay and no later than 3 working days following the identification. In addition, what happened if what we find is that is a new risk or a change in a known risk. In this case, what we have to do is also to notify to the competent authority without delay and no later than 30 calendar days from its identification. So, it's important also to take into account 2 things, which is that a signal is always an hypothesis. It does not always translate into a definitive causal association. Another important thing is to have in mind is that not all signals represent risk or require further regulatory actions. Signals can arise from several data sources, including clinical trials, scientific literature, non-clinical trials data, post-marketing surveillance studies, and it's also very important to know that the information that is in the Union Pharmacovigilance database has to be used for the signal detection. In line with this, now I want to focus on the meaning of medically important term. The mid-terms are bedrock terms that identify serious medical concepts that are often causally associated with drugs. Mid-terms deserve special attention even in the absence of any statistical disproportionality measure. According to the new regulation, there is a new list and there are some topics to highlight. Which are these? Well, it's important you to know that some PTs are only medically important in some species. Also, any event occurring in humans should be considered a mid-term. And also, lack of expected efficacy, especially for products used in anesthesia, should be prioritized. In line with this, I want you to explain a little bit more about the signal priorization because it's something very important regarding the new legislation. In order to avoid delaying the detection and management of certain signals, signal priorization should be performed. And this means that we have to use specific criteria to focus on signals or potential signals which require more urgent attention because they have an impact on the benefit-risk balance of our products. So, what is an emerging safety issue? Well, it's any information that arises which influence the assessment of the benefits and the risk of our product. Examples. In the context of clinical trials, a major safety issue could be an unexpected increased rate of fatal or life-threatening adverse events, for example. And in the context of spontaneous reports, a major safety issue can be, for instance, any information that leads to contraindications, restriction of use of veterinary products, or withdraw from markets. So, what should the MATs do when identify an emerging safety issue? The MAT has to create a specific entry in the relevant module of the Union Pharmacovigilance database and have to fill and submit a notification form no later than 3 working days. Remember this. Then MAT will collaborate with EMA in the assessment. What happened after EMA received this notification? Well, EMA will start an incident management plan and other regulatory procedures like referrals, for instance. Then, if what we have is signals involve midterms, in this case, as we have already talked, this has to be prioritized, even in the absence of statistical disproportionality. And in these cases, at least 3 cases are usually needed. And which is the, which is, to finish with this slide, which is the priorization criteria for other types of signals. Well, it's not very common to have a large number of potential signals related to veterinary products, and many of the signals are false positives. So for this reason, it's very important to select very good criteria. What kind of criteria we should follow? Well, we should follow criteria such as the novelty of the product event association, the strength of the evidence that we have, the seriousness, severity, outcomes, or reversibility of the event, the public health and environmental protection implications, among others. And in these cases, 5 cases are usually needed. Frequency of monitoring. According to the frequency of monitoring depends on the identified risk, and we should take into account some topics, which are the type of product, the length of time on the market, and the stability of the pharmacovigilance profile, the identified and potential risk, and the need for additional information. According to the new regulation, the marketing authorization holders have to submit at least once a year the signal detections. So they have to submit a statement with a conclusion on the benefit-risk balance and a statement confirming that the signal management process has been conducted. Also, it's important you to know that in case the authorities request a close monitoring, these periods can be shorter. In addition, it's important you to know that to facilitate and coordinate the evaluation of the data during the first year of implementation of this new regulation, the NGC has proposed due dates. So, according to these due dates, signal detection analysis on EBV should be performed within 2 months before the due date. Nevertheless, please notice that signals can also be submitted at any time, but by the due date at the latest. Okay, which is another very important update in the new regulation, the PSMF, the Pharmacovigilance System Master 5. Now I'm going to go through the more important aspect related to this. According to the new regulation, the PSMF will replace the DDP. So the PSMF must reflect the current PV system in place. Also, the math, according to the new regulation, all the products has to be covered by a pharmacovigilance system describing in a PSMF. Besides, the PSMF should consist of a main part describing the pharmacovigilance system and some annex. So, the main part should contain, among others, first, information regarding the QPPP and the deputy, information on the marketing authorization holder, a description of the document management system, including the system for recording adverse event, a full description of the PV activities, of course, including trainings, system for archiving, system for monitoring the performance of pharmacovigilance systems. And a very important thing according to this new regulation is that we have to include a full description of audits management and a list of audits associated with unresolved critical or major findings, as well as corrective and preventive plans. Also, but it's very important, as I already said, that if we have agreements with third party, these agreements has to be explained in detail in the PSMF. The annex contains detailed information that has been explained in the main part. But what is very important, Here we have to include a list of all completed and scheduled audits, because this is a very important tool for pharmacovigilance system oversight. So, as you can see, the veterinary PSMF is very similar to the PSMF for medicinal products for human use. The last important thing is that according to the new regulation, the PSMF is we have to prepare a summary of the PSMF as a part of the application dossier. Other general consideration, other things very important related to the PSMF that you have to take into account. Well, according to the maintenance, the marketing authorization holders should keep the PSMF, including its annex and the summary, up to date. Also, the PSMF is subject to version control, and it's important to indicate the date when it was last updated. And also we need a logbook in which we explain or we record any alteration in the content of the main part of the PSMF made within the last 5 years. Also, it's important to know that if the national competent authorities or the agency or any authority requests the PSMF, we have 7 days. About the location, each PSMF can be declared only in one location. This location should be a physical office address, which reflect in the European Union, which reflect where the main PV activities are performed or where the QPPV operates. And any change in the location has to be notified to the competent authorities and the agency. Also, it's very important that the MAD should ensure that the QPPV has authority over and permanent access to the PSMF. According to the format, the PSMF may be stored or may available in electronic form. And if it is requested for an audit or for an inspection, request a printed copy, this printed copy should be complete and legible. So after viewing the most important consideration regarding the PSMF, I want you to move and to finish this webinar with the last update of the regulation, which is the collection of sales and use data. As we have previously talked, from 28th January 2022, MADS needs to submit post-authorization data on the maintenance product to the Union Product Database. So this data include the status of the product, any change to the authorization status, and variation not requiring assessment. But what is new? We have to include also volume of sales. When MAD start reporting sales data, how often will sales volumes need to be provided? Well, first of all, you have to know that submitted sales are not public data, and this data will be only accessible to competent authorities or individuals who have super user access in the UPD. The idea is to collect volume on sales together with species and those factors and adverse events in order to calculate incidence. So, a guideline is being prepared. This is under construction. The MAD will have flexibility to submit this information. By now, the frequency of submission will be decided by the MAD, but it is expected that the submission timelines will be aligned to a calendar year. And also, the idea is that a period of report will be established. To finish this webinar, I want to mention the last update on the new regulation, which is related to the obligation to collect data on the volume of sales and on the use of antimicrobial medicine products in animals. So, which is the proposed? The proposed is to support the integrative analysis of data on antimicrobial consumptions and antimicrobial resistance in humans, animals, and food. This is also under construction, so a guideline including manuals, protocols will be developed and maintained. And all the microbials that are addressed to this new regulation are all of these that I showed you in this slide. So to finish, according to this new regulation, also a gradual inclusion of animal species in the collection of use data is proposed. But as I already said, a guideline including manuals, templates, and protocols for reporting volume and sales and use data will be developed and maintained. And now it's under construction, but it's good you to know this. So this webinar ends here. During these 45 minutes, we have reviewed the most important updates in relation to the new veterinary regulation. Well, I hope that you take away a clear and useful overview of the new requirements. So now I think that we have a few minutes for questions. So please feel free to ask whatever you want. If you don't have questions now, but some questions arise after this webinar, please send any request or question to this email, which is farmacovigilancia@spharion.com, and we will evaluate the question and I will answer you. So I leave some minutes if you have any questions. Okay.
Laura, we don't have any questions.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for coming. This webinar ends here. As I already said, this is our email. Please feel free to contact us if you need support, if you need our help regarding the new veterinary pharmacovigilance regulation. So thank you very much for coming.